G'day everybody, today we are doing some cartage calculations in QGIS and we're going to jump straight into Paint to try and explain what on earth is going on here and what exactly we're trying to do. So let's just pretend for a second we've got, and excuse my drawing skills, we've got a road network. It's got roads that go like this, it's got roads that go like that, little spur roads, etc. Let's say over here we have the mill. Like this is the mill, this is where we're taking the wood, alright, from our forestry coupes. And so over here we've got let's say coupe 1, I'm just going to call it C1, and then we've got coupe number 2. Right, so let's just say that in coupe, that's the coupe boundary there. In coupe number 1 we've got, let's keep things simple, we've got 500 tons coming out of coupe number 1, and then we've got 1,000 tons coming out of coupe number 2. Now what we want to know in this situation is how many tons are going down each of these roads and what the total tons are that go onto each particular road. Maybe we want to send that to the council or whoever it might be. Now let's pretend for a second that we have a bridge here, and this particular bridge is not a good bridge. It's really dodgy, it can only handle the weight of a car, fully laden truck can't get over it. So if you were to do some basic cartage calculations in QGIS without any sort of intelligence to it, what's going to happen, and I'm going to draw the cartage route here in blue, what will happen is the cartage route will go down this road and try and find its closest path down to the mill. But the truck drivers know that they can't go down this road and can't take the shortest path down to the mill. They instead have to hang a right here and then connect up with this road down here and then make their way down to the mill. And so obviously this coupe number 2 here, we're going to go straight down this road, straight down to the mill. And so what we're going to end up with is on this particular road here, these two roads here, we're going to end up with 500 tons of wood going on those roads there. We're going to end up with 1,000. By the way, this over here was meant to be 1,000. You're just going to have to excuse my bad drawing. You'd end up with 1,000 tons going down this road, and then a total of 1,500 tons going down this particular road here where these two meet. And that's what we're trying to do today. We're trying to figure out, okay, we've got a bunch of coupes, they're heading towards mills, we've got to stop them from going over dodgy bridges. How many tons end up going over a particular road? So that's what we're going to work on right now. So I've got a few steps to be able to figure this out. In this particular situation, we're in the Huon Valley, and I've downloaded the roads for the Huon Valley. First step is to filter out the roads layer. Now I've downloaded this directly from the list. We're going to filter this out. So first of all, what we're going to do is make sure that the trans type is equal to road, because if you download like a regular transport layer, what will happen is it might come with railways and tracks and routes, which in this case is like ferry routes, irrelevant to what we're trying to do. We just want the roads, so we're going to filter that out, so that way we don't have like walking tracks going up Mount Wellington, things like that. The next step is to find the center point of the coupes. So here's the story that we have today. We have these two coupes here, and these particular coupes are informal coupes. They're basically areas where some bogan out the back of Judbury has found areas to go and collect firewood. So he's decided, okay, I can collect firewood from this place here. I'm going to call this bogan 2. And then we've got this coupe over here, it's called bogan 1. And then the mill, the destination for the wood, is going to be out the back of Judbury here. So that's where the bogan, in this particular situation, he's driving his ute all the way out the back of the Huon Valley to his bogan coupes where he collects firewood, and he's going to be taking that wood back down the road. And we've got to figure out how many tons of wood in the back of his ute are going to go down each of the particular roads here. So first of all, let's find the center point of these two bogan coupes. In order to do that, what I find most appropriate, you can use centroid if you want, but I find most appropriate to use something called the polar of inaccessibility, which is a type of center point. It's the point at which is furthest away from the edges of the coupe. I just find it's most appropriate when you've got coupes that are sort of split into separate parts. So we're going to take the polar of inaccessibility of the bogan coupes, and we're going to put that into... I'm working with geopackages here, by the way, just because it's easier in QGIS. So we're going to call this bogan coupes, let's say, center points. Let's go with that and run that. Nice and easy. You can see we've got our polar of inaccessibility as that, I remove that, polar of inaccessibility right there as a point. What's important is that that polar of inaccessibility contains our coupe IDs as well as the tonnages. So you can see the bogan's getting 2 tons out of the bogan 1 coupe, and he's getting 1 ton of firewood out of the bogan 2 coupe. Great, so now what we're going to do is we're going to try and snap, I believe that's the next step, we're going to snap the points onto the nearest road. Let's see if we can find that tool. Snap geometries to layer. So we want to snap our bogan coupe center points onto the road network. For the tolerance, we want to crank that up because we want them to be able to snap from a long way away. Not that it's a real drama here. So the snapped geometry, we're going to say bogan coupe center points snapped. And these are going to be snapped onto the nearest road. Let's see how that goes. Bang. Okay, great. So here's the important thing about this, and I'm going to try and make this a little bit brighter. So what's happened here is we've got the bogan coupe center point, and now it's snapped onto the road. So now we can easily do our cartage calculations along the road. So the next step is going to be using the tool shortest path layer to point. Great. So our vector layer representing the network is going to be the list transport segments. We're going to be calculating the shortest path, and we're going to be using the bogan coupe center point snapped as the start points. Now for the end point, that's where we have to manually find our mill, and in this case the bogan has been doing his... give me a second. Sorry guys, I just had to turn on my snapping, so the snapping toolbar is a really handy one to have, so that way we can snap the end point right onto the end of the road. That's where the bogan is taking his firewood and cutting it up, so that's going to be our mill today. And so for the shortest path, we're going to output that, and we're going to call it, what are we going to call it? Bogan Cartage routes. Let's see what happens. No doubt we're going to come out with some issues in this step, and we're going to need to repeat this particular shortest path layer to point tool several times, and we'll see that in a moment what's going on there. So right now it's analyzing the road network, all the roads in the Huon Valley, and trying to determine the shortest path out of all the different roads that could be going down. So let's see what we get. Yep, so we've just got our result. Great, so let's have a good look at what's going on here, and just pre-warning, you will need some, I guess, local knowledge and understanding in order to make sense of what's going on. I personally find it easier if we make the roads a yellow, and then over the top we put our cartage routes as a blue, and we make them nice and thick so we can see what's going on here, like so. So we can, I believe we have an issue, and I've kind of purposely designed it in this sort of way so we would come up with an issue, is that this particular cartage route we have here, so the bogan's getting firewood from here, and then he's heading all the way down, I believe this is McDougall's Road, and then down onto Lonavale Road, heading back into Judgebury, back to his little mill, and that's fine. But if we have a look at this particular bogan coupe up here, he's getting firewood from here, and then he's driving along here, but unfortunately this bridge here, which is the one of the twin bridges up the Russell, it's been taken out, it's been destroyed, and so you can't actually drive over here. And so this is one of the issues that you're going to run into when doing cartage calculations is the cartage shortest path thing is dumb. It doesn't understand what's going on in real life. And so as far as it's concerned, a car can drive over here. But in actual fact, the bridge is gone. The bogan knows that. So when he collects his firewood from here, he comes back out the way he came, which was all the way down McDougall's Road and down this path here. So that's fine. We can fix that up. And so the way we're going to do that is by... There's a few ways you can do this. One of the ways you can do it is by putting an attribute into the roads layer that says not for cartage use. And that's fine, but when you're dealing with multiple road network layers, which you may need to do so in the future, it's better to create what I call cutting polygons. So we'll see if we can do something along those lines. So what I've done is I've just gone and created a new layer, new GeoPackage layer, and we're going to call this road cutouts. And we're going to save that as a GeoPackage, and we're going to make it a polygon or multi-polygon, doesn't really matter. Yep, so that's fine. And what we're going to do with this road cutouts thing is we're going to use it to effectively cut out roads which we believe are not relevant to the cartage calculations that we're doing. So in this particular example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this cutout polygon to say all of these roads here are not relevant to our cartage calculations. And what we're going to do eventually is use this polygon to cut the roads layer and cut out all the roads within this area. I'm also going to say, in order to speed up the process, this bogan's only doing work up here. You know, he has no concerns down here. So I'm going to do a big slice of all the stuff down south, because I know that in this particular situation, those roads down there are not relevant to the cartage calculations that we're doing. So let's see if we can run that. I think we shouldn't have any dramas from here on in. So I'm going to save the road cutouts, and then what we're going to do is go into difference. Difference is the name of the tool that we want to use today. So the input layer is going to be our list transport segments, which is our roads, and we're going to use the road cutouts to slice out the roads that we don't want. And so we're going to call this, let's say, Huon Roads cutout. Let's go with that. And it's going to go ahead and do its thing. Alright, that's fine. Let's have a look at what we've just created. So Huon Roads cutout. Yep, that looks good to me. So I'm just going to turn on this as a nice bright yellow so we can see what's going on. Turn off our road cutouts, and you can see here our big slicey line has cut out all the roads that are not relevant, and it's also cut out, if I turn off this cartage route, that road down the Russell, which is not drivable. So hopefully now if we do our shortest path again, so this is why I was saying we're going to need to run this tool multiple times, hopefully it should calculate our bogan cartage fairly well. So we've got our Huon Roads cutout as our network, and the vector layer with the start points is going to be our bogan coupes snapped, and our endpoint is going to be our secret bogan mill here in Judbury, and let's calculate our shortest path. So we're going to go bogan cartage routes version 2. When I was initially doing this, I got up to version, God knows what, 40 or something, because it took that many reattempts to get right when I was initially learning how to do this sort of thing. Hopefully we get it second go. You notice it was a whole lot quicker after we've deleted all those other roads. There we go, look at this, look at this. So let's, again, colour that a nice bright blue. There may be a quicker way of doing this, but this is how I do it. Cool, there we go, great. So we've got out of our bogan coupe number, whatever that was, bogan coupe number 1, it's heading down the correct road that it should, all the way down here. Bogan coupe number 2 meets up here, and that's when they both go together all the way down this road, up and over here into Lonavale and out to Judbury. So that's great. That is exactly what the bogan would be doing when he's driving, so we're replicating reality, which is great. So the other thing you'll notice is that in the attributes of this, we have not only the name of the coupe that the wood has come from, but also the tonnage. so that's stored within the lines. You can see we've got 2 tons stored within this line, and then we've got 1 ton stored within that line. So that's fantastic. We should be good to go now with our next step. So we've just finished the shortest path. We're repeating using the cutout polygon in order to redo it to make sure it made sense. And now the next step is to do a union with the roads. So let's see if we can find our union tool. So we're going to be unioning our Bogan Cartage routes version 2 as well as our Huon roads cutout, and we're going to call them Cartage roads union. And we'll run that. That might take a long time if you've got a lot of cartage routes, but luckily we've only got 2 in this particular situation. Great. And before I go any further, one of the important things about this particular Huon roads layer is the fact that we have in here our Transeg ID, which is the ID of the particular road. And that's what we're going to be doing a dissolve on in a second. So before we do that, Cartage routes union, let's just make sure it created. There we go. So you notice we've got a union between everything, so not only cartage routes but also all the roads as well, because it's a union, it's putting them all together. Let's do a little definition query. We're going to set the tonnage, let's see if I can get this right, is not null. I think that's the correct way to do this. There we go. So now we've got in our union just the areas where the cartage is, the roads with the cartage. Now if we query this, you notice that there's 2 features, or there should be 2 features. Let's just double check that that's true. Yes, so we've got 2 features. So we've got a line on top of a line. So that's why when I query this, we've got 2 features. We've got the route coming out of Bogan Coupe 2, as well as the route coming out of Bogan Coupe 1. So that's great. We've got a line on top of a line. So we've got a cartage on top of cartage. So if you've got like 30 coupes, you might have like 30 lines all on top of each other along the same Transeg ID, if that makes sense. So now the next step is going to be a little tool called Aggregate, which is kind of like dissolve. And we're going to be doing an aggregation of our cartage roads union, and we're going to be grouping by the expression of, I believe we're going to be grouping by the expression of Transeg ID. Fantastic. Cool, and now we've got to pay attention to some of these fields in here because we can cause some issues. I've noticed in the past if you ever do concatenations, what'll happen is it'll concatenate and make this gigantic long text string and glitch things out. So make sure you remove any concatenations. I think it's best to use first value instead of concatenations for when you're making these roads come together, these lines come together. As for Transeg ID, we want to get the first value. We don't want to sum the Transeg ID. We just want to get whatever the Transeg ID happens to be for this aggregation. FID, again, first value. The cost, we don't really care, first value. Distance, don't care, first value. This is the important part, tonnage. We want to sum the tonnage for the particular road. So that's going to be really critical. That's the one thing that we're going to not leave as first value because we're summing tonnage. And that's the whole purpose of this particular exercise, is we're trying to sum the tonnage on the particular road. So let's roll with that and see what our output is going to be. We're going to go cartage roads union aggregate. Save that, nice and easy. And let's see if we can figure out what is going on here. This should be exactly what we're after. This should be our final solution. So we're going to color this and make sure that it is in fact what we're after. We're going to color it based on tonnage. There we go. So if we color this based on tonnage, let's bring it down to 3 classes perhaps, and let's make these lines nice and thick so we can see what's going on. How do we do that? Change width. There we go. Make them nice and thick. Thick boys. Look at that. Cool. Alright, so this is it. This is our output, and if we query this we can see what's going on. So along this particular road there were 2 tons coming out of Bogan Coupe 1, and so you can see that here in the tonnage. There is in fact, let's close this off, there is in fact 2 tons coming along this road here. and then we've got 1 tonne coming out of bogan coupe number 2, 1 tonne. And so where the truck or the ute tonnage from here, from bogan 1 meets bogan 2 along this road here, which is McDougall's, you can see that we've then got a tonnage of 3 tonnes. And so this is exactly what we're after. So we have a particular transeg ID. So we can see that this part of Denison becomes Denison Road is a council road with the transeg ID of that, and the bogan is going to take, over the course of his operations, 3 tonnes over that council road transeg ID right there. And that's it. That's pretty much all we need to do for the moment. We've calculated our tonnes going over the roads with our transeg IDs, which is all we need to do in this particular situation. So hopefully with those 3 tonnes going over this council road, there won't be a huge amount of maintenance that will need to be done because of the bogan's cartage. And so that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below, because I know that I flew through this one, but maybe you didn't understand what happened during a particular step here in QGIS. You can replicate this in ArcGIS. Maybe I should have said that at the start, but I have just done it in QGIS because it's what I'm familiar with. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, leave any comments and I'll catch you guys next time.